swarm, she studied
Did
it,
you
predicted
see
it,
that?
flew into a kill zone no algorithm recommended, because the algorithm didn't understand fear the way a human did, and one by one the drones fell, not in chaos but in a pattern so clean it would be taught later in classrooms. And when she landed, silence followed her jet, the kind of silence that happens when truth finally outruns lies. But the story didn't end there, because success threatened systems built on exclusion, and within hours media descended. Questions sharpened, narratives twisted, some calling her a hero, others asking why she had been allowed near a jet at all, digging up the old investigation, resurrecting the crash, and here came the second twist. Because the crash that ended her career had been caused by a software override ordered by a defense contractor to meet a demo deadline, a fact buried under non-disclosure agreements until Lena's sudden return forced sunlight into sealed rooms, and a junior analyst, watching her drone engagement replay, noticed the same signature anomaly from 8 years earlier, connected dots that should have been connected long ago, and when the files surfaced, when emails leaked, it became clear that Lena Carter hadn't been a scapegoat by accident. She had been convenient, and the system that crushed her now needed her to save its face, offering reinstatement, medals, interviews. But here came the third twist, the quietest and most devastating. Because Lena didn't say yes right away, she asked for something else. The names of every pilot quietly sidelined, every maintenance worker ignored, every warning buried because it came from the wrong voice, and she demanded independent review authority, training reform, and public acknowledgement of the lie. And when they hesitated, she walked back to her mop, because power only means something if you can refuse it, and the country watched in shock as footage spread of the woman who had saved an airbase returning to clean its floors. And that image did what protests and reports never could, because Americans understand dignity, and under pressure the command folded, the truth came out, careers ended, policies changed, and Lena Carter returned to the cockpit not as a favor but as a correction, leading a new unit built on merit, teaching pilots twice her age how to listen to their instruments and their instincts. And the final twist came years later, when a young black girl on a base tour asked her why she waited so long to fly again, and Lena smiled and said, "I wasn't waiting, I was surviving." Because sometimes history doesn't move forward in parades and speeches, sometimes it moves with a mop in hand, eyes on the ground, strength held back until the moment the sky itself demands the truth. And if this story made you feel something, anger, pride, hope, subscribe, because there are more truths like this waiting to be told, and the next one might change how you see the person standing right in front of you. Before you scroll past, let me ask you something. What if the person mopping the floor at your local airbase, the woman you never looked twice at, was once trusted with $1 billion fighter jet and the lives of hundreds? And what if the system that erased her had no idea what it was about to unleash? If you believe hidden greatness deserves recognition and you want stories Hollywood is too afraid to tell, subscribe now and stay with me, because this is the story of the black janitor who hid for 8 years that she was a fighter pilot, until they forced her back into the cockpit. And it begins on a freezing morning in Nevada when Lena Carter pushed a yellow mop bucket down Hangar C. Head lowered, gray coveralls swallowing her frame, hair wrapped tight under a faded cap, moving like a ghost through a place that once echoed with her call sign. Razor, a name that still lived in the metal bones of the jets overhead even if no one remembered the woman who earned it. Because 8 years earlier Lena Carter had been Captain Lena Carter, top 3 in her class, first black woman to qualify on the Falcon V, a machine so temperamental and lethal that most pilots washed out before their second evaluation. But she hadn't washed out. She had been washed away, buried under an investigation that never said her name out loud but made sure her career never recovered, an investigation triggered by a crash she didn't cause, a chain of command failure pinned quietly on the easiest target. And when the uniform came off, she didn't fight it publicly, didn't scream or sue or go on television. She disappeared, because survival sometimes looks like silence, and silence looks like a mop and a badge that says contract cleaning staff. And for 8 years she learned the rhythm of invisibility, the way people talk around you when they think you are nothing, the way pilots brag, complain, fear the sky without knowing the woman wiping oil from the floor could land their jet blindfolded. And every night she went home to a 1-bedroom apartment, taped flight manuals hidden behind cookbooks, muscle memory alive in her hands as she ran simulations in her head. Because you don't stop being a pilot just because the world stops letting you fly. And the twist no one saw coming began on a Tuesday when the base went into lockdown. Alarms slicing through the desert air. A foreign drone swarm breaching restricted airspace, communication scrambled. 2 pilots down with food poisoning from a bad contractor lunch, 1 grounded for panic tremors, and suddenly there were more jets than qualified hands, and desperation has a way of making rank disappear, because when Colonel Hastings slammed his fist on the briefing table and demanded options, a young lieutenant, pale and shaking, said the words that changed everything. "Sir, there's a janitor who knows the Falcons." Laughter followed, sharp and dismissive, but Hastings didn't laugh, because Hastings remembered a name he'd tried to forget, remembered a flight report that didn't add up, remembered a pilot who argued with data instead of ego, and when he ordered security to bring Lena Carter to the command room, she arrived still holding her mop, eyes steady, spine straight, and in that moment the room split between disbelief and something like fear, because she didn't look confused or grateful, she looked ready, and when Hastings asked her the question, "Can you still fly?" she didn't answer right away. She looked at the flight board, at the blinking red threat markers, at the young pilots pretending not to stare, and she said, "I never stopped." And they tried to ground her with paperwork, with expired certifications, with liability language, but missiles don't wait for forms, and the higher command override came through like a thunderclap. Emergency authorization, one mission, one jet, no margin for error, and as Lena walked onto the tarmac the wind tore at her. Coveralls, mechanics froze, whispers spread. Someone recognized her walk. Someone else recognized the scar on her jaw from a training ejection 8 years ago. And when she climbed into the cockpit of Falcon V-27 it was like stepping back into her own heartbeat, switches familiar as prayer, hands calm as the canopy closed, and the first twist hit when she rerouted power mid-taxi, correcting a design flaw that engineers had debated for years but never solved, because she had solved it once before and been ignored, and in the air she didn't just intercept the swarm, she studied it, predicted it, flew